Good afternoon. I am Sarita, a senior sales engineer with Snowflake. And all this 5 minutes of quizzing, I hope it has activated everyone. And we are here to learn, listen, unlearn, and relearn a few things. And that is where I come for. With that, I would go ahead. So Elena did a wonderful slide presentation where she took us through the entire life cycle of how we are progressing ahead with the AI life cycle. I would like to take one step back, and this is not my picture, honestly. This is from a source where they're talking about the innovation cycles. Many of you might have seen it already, where we are talking about first wave, which took 60 years for us to reach, where we were discussing about all the important industrial revolution kind of work, where water, textile, iron was something which we were processing. Next came the steam power, rail, engines, infrastructure for railway systems. Third came electricity, Edison's bulb, penicillin, and all those things took 50 years from there. And then came petrochemicals, electronics, chips, advances in chips, and mobile phones. Motorola was one of the path breakers. Now it's not there anymore. Nokia, Apple, Samsung. We saw them taking leaps and bounds in different kinds of mobile technologies. Aviation. Today it is possible to fly, use low or economy aviation with Boeing and a lot of other companies taking the forefront in all these technologies. The next one came in 30 years, where we're talking about software. And India saw a real leaps and bounds growth in software because of a specific model, and because we have always been the hub of knowledge. After that, the next 25 years, we saw a big boom out there, which is the sixth wave, as we say, which is of AI and IoT. Honestly, AI is not something which is new or something which we have discovered just 2, 3, 4, 5 years back. The first papers of AI were written about 55, 60 years back, and the founding fathers thought of these things and how do we bring in. You all know the story, I won't go there. But then, from there till now, we saw how we are moving ahead. But then, the question comes, how many of your AI or how many of your ML or LLM projects actually mean something to the business? And unfortunately, all of us being here as data engineers, we have seen that about 80% plus of our projects, they never see the light of the day. There are multiple reasons why it happens. We do all kinds of collection, reduction, labeling, cleaning, data processing, which takes away about 70% of our time as we speak as data engineers or data analysts or even data scientists. But then, once we train it, what happens next? We are not being able to present it, or the people are not being able to relate to it, or we are not being able to put this forth, that this is what is the next thing or the next best action that we are to take. And that is where 80% plus AI projects do not have a say. These are the challenges which come in when we talk about why that 80% number that we were seeing out there comes in and shows up. One, data silos. So anyone here who doesn't agree with any of these points, please do raise your hand and we can have a discussion. Data silos. Your data is on-prem, on cloud, multiple cloud. The data is running from one hub to another. There are orchestration engines in between, but still there are silos of data. There is not a single source of truth. There is not a single place where you have the entire observability, entire governance of your data set. Unfortunately, that's the truth today. Next, tool complexity. Oh, let me get this X tool, it does this. Let me get this tool because I need observability. Let me get tool Z because it is helpful in governance. Let me do tool A because it helps in orchestration. How many of you have been in this loop? You have gone back to your business, you have told them, or your teams, your IT teams, you being CEOs and CTOs and CIOs, your IT teams have brought in, oh, we want this one, let's acquire. Yes, this exists. Next is accuracy of results. Now we have got with AI something which is called as 95% accuracy, 90% accuracy. It at least shows you some picture. But how do you ensure that this is what the business team wanted? Cost management. How do you have the visibility of the cost that you're going to spend? How much are you spending on-prem, on cloud? How do you bring all of these things together? This is not a challenge only for the business nowadays, it is also a challenge which is percolating to the lowest level of data engineers as we speak, because this is an important aspect of the overall cost infrastructure. Security concerns, your PII information, there is a lot of information which is flowing into your systems, and then there are a lot of concerns around them. We have got a lot of regulations like GDPR and a lot of regulations which actually entail so that our data remains secure and governed. But how much is being followed is a question which we must all answer. Regulations, skills gap. Because I am a SQL engineer, but because I have to work on a specific forecast model, I have to learn Python, and there is a learning curve out there. Honestly, I am willing to learn, but then there are other nuances to it, like how do we do the machine learning modeling? Let us say tomorrow I have to learn Scala, and the day after I would have to deploy a jar. I'd have to understand how do I Docker, how do I go ahead with Kubernetes and microservices, and then just multiply it with 4 large cloud service providers with hundreds of products which are available today. So this is the complexity, technical complexity that I'm talking about. And then think about the business complexity. When I go and tell my leaders that, oh, I want this tool from this particular place, and that is where the problem really escalates. And the last one is scalability. We were at CPUs, and now we are moving towards GPUs, and that's where Jensen Huang, one of the leading lights, and his cousin, of course, both of them are leading us with NVIDIA and AMD, respectively, with chips and manufacturing and a lot of things happening around there. So how do we tackle this, or how can we bucket it? One is siloed data, and second is fragmented practice. So I have brought all those challenges which I showed you in the last slide together into only 2 pieces that you can actually relate to as teams, as business, and this is what I'm going to talk to. And how do we solve for this? One, we solve for siloed data, and second, we solve for the fragmented practice, right? So these are you must have gone through the traditional data engineering cycle where you bring in your data, the data moves from one layer to other, you have got orchestration engines, there are different places where your data can still get downloaded, you never know who did that. Many breaches which are possible, many DDoS and MI, man-in-the-middle attacks and everything, which become very, very challenging situations for us. And then you also have a complex capacity building. Your data ends up siloed and it is difficult to share. You are not being able to access your third-party data, your information from other vendors, maybe information exists so that you will be able to access the data and also lose governance. This is a major factor why we face all these challenges. So, what and why am I standing here? Because I am here to tell you that before you go for any AI strategy, you need a good data strategy. Without your data being in place, being safe, secure, at a single pane, it is very, very difficult to implement a complete AI strategy. All your ML, LLM, all the functions, your operations, your DevOps, MLOps really falls flat. And that is where there is no AI strategy without a data strategy. And this is where Snowflake comes in, helps you in identifying or simplifying your data foundation, accelerating your AI, and scaling with applications. So now you can get your data sets, you can also get applications, and you can make applications and put them on marketplace. So why do we need to build your data pipelines with Snowflake as a solution? That is because you have got simple options of having any kind of pipeline. Any kind of pipeline use case you can bring here. Second, you have the capacity of 2-click data share. So now, what do? We download a particular Excel, share it, FTP it, WinSCP it. Can I get some water, please? Now you can do a data share here. The third is you can now bring in Python and SQL compute engines together. So what does that mean? A person who was a data analyst, a person who was working on the data set, now does not need to change the platform, right? How does it look like? Multiple data sources which you have, all of it flows in with the help of either a streaming or continuous ingestion, which we call as Snowpipe or Snowpipe streaming. And then it is followed by a data transformation, and then it is cleaned. The data is processed and moves to the gold layer. After that, you can share the data, replicate it, and then use worksheet notebooks, and then take the data to data science, ML, and AI. How do we manage the pipeline? There are 3 life cycles, folks, which I would like to bring in. The first being the early pipeline, and that is where we can bring in some of the things like OCRs. So the data in PDFs, bills, any kind of documents can be brought in. The second is all data can be stored in one place or one stage or one management. Let us say you have a catalog in which you can manage all your data which sits on Snowflake or any other vendor. Then you would be able to bring that data set together. That would be a blessing in disguise for all of us. The third is once you have a batch and streaming kind of architecture, you can build a Lambda or a Kappa kind of architecture and bring your data together. Then comes to the open formats of data storage, which is Iceberg. And then comes the second stage. So you started from the left side. The second stage comes into picture where you have a mid-pipeline life cycle, where you can build your feature stores. So for doing the AI, you would need your models to work on. You can bring in your models either from the open source or build something of your own. And for that, you would need a feature in place which you can reuse and you can build on models. That is where you bring in. And then the data and technical democratization, MLOps on top of your own data engineering set. A co-pilot which helps you in transformation of the data either into SQL or into charts. And that is something which is already available with Snowflake. There are some functions which are available to analysts so that they can do forecasting, anomaly detection, and a lot of other functionalities without even bringing in any models. And the last one is access to the fine-tuned models. The last one is the post-pipeline processing, where you can bring in any kind of fine-tuning to your models, RAG implementations, accessibility with analytics and reporting, observability, and cost control. Once you have a solution which does all of this left to right in all the entirety of the pipeline which you are building for your data engineering, it really means a lot of sense and does supercharge your AI ML journey that you are about to take. But then it needs patient building. What does it need? It needs a language of choice which you want to run your query on. The ingestion options, you would need batch and streaming. You need an orchestration where you can bring in your data and check how the data is processing. If there are any data quality issues around the data, how do you manage? It should have developer tools which you can bring in for yourself. For example, VS Code. For example, any kind of UI for your SQL data set, Hex notebooks or Jupyter notebooks, table formats. It should be, for example, it should have the flexibility of working with table formats, streaming workloads. It should have application interfaces. So all kinds of APIs should be available, and that is where all of this solves. The infrastructure as code should be available to all of you. A SaaS kind of implementation or a IaaS, and then security and governance. So thinking about Snowflake, we have got some governance tools like anonymization, where your data just gets into a demographic block, or dynamic data masking, where you can actually mask your data for a specific set of users. And then we also have row-level access, where you can only access for a certain geography, or for a certain role, you can access only specific rows. And then, of course, we have got SSO, MFA, and all of that enabled on top of your data, so that no one will be able to log in just like that into your data, download it, and just do whatever he wants to. The last one, working with the times, it should have ML and AI support, data apps and data and app sharing, and data types and functions. So this is what the architecture pattern should have, and this is what the data cloud architecture of Snowflake actually entails. Yeah? And this is something which is applicable to all data engineering platforms and should be available on them. Of the three, or of all the important portions, 3 of them are really important. One is streaming. So you can do any kind of streaming with Snowpipe and Snowpipe streaming. Then comes Snowpark. Sorry, where you can do any kind of Python processing, any kind of Python SQL kind of processing. You can also bring in your MLOps and MLAI. So what I would do right now is I would just take a break from this particular slides. And what I would show is how the current LLM that we have built on top of Snowflake actually works, which is the Snowflake Arctic. So this is a LLM which we have just come up with 1 month back, where it is a multi-model MOE kind of a LLM. And what does it do? For that, what I would do is let us see if it gives us the right solutions. Yeah. So it says Analytics India Magazine Data Engineering Summit is an annual event which brings together professionals, experts, and organizations in the field of data engineering. This is an open source LLM available to you on your enterprise data, and this we are posing as enterprise AI, which can now be brought in on top of your own data, which you have on one single pane, which is Snowflake. For example, So it is being able to answer a lot of open questions which are out there, and honestly, this particular LLM model is built more towards the SQL practices. For example, if I would have connected it to my Snowflake environment and then would have asked them some of the questions, for example, questions like, what was the highest sales in my total sold table or actual sales table, or what is the planning that I should do for a forecasting model, it would have given me the SQL query to run the same. And this can actually also be done with the help of a Snowflake Copilot, which I will run in a short time. So what I'm doing right now is trying to run my Copilot, and let me see if I can run a quick query on top of it. So this is the Snowflake Copilot as we speak, and it tells me that how I can help, and it needs a specific role access, and it also needs a specific warehouse. It is as simple as that. The warehouse has started. So it asks me to select the database and to select a specific schema. And I would go ahead and ask it to tell me about the data. It tells me about the metadata of the data that I have currently built, and tells me about how this entire data set has been built. And this is where any data engineer would be happy to take this up, find the specific columns, find the data set or the metadata that they wanted to explore on, and then, for example, I would like to say, I would like to find out the daily call volume. So it tells me to find the daily call volume, what is it that I would have to run, and then it suggests me that this is the query that can be taken and run on top of my data. I am just clicking on the run button. This is a very simple kind of a query. This is for the demo purposes only, but we have actually tried it with very complex scenarios, and this is where the SQL does come in. For example, I would like to see a graphical chart of all of this, then I could easily go to any of these graphs and charts and just take these graphs and display them as one of my answers or one of my projections to my business team, and that's it. That's it. Now, you have taken your data, you have ingested into Snowflake with the streaming and the Snowpipe. Now the data sits on a database. You run a Copilot, even if you know a SQL query or not, a business user can also log in, run this Copilot, and get the data set for themselves. Now for those people who go a little one step ahead and who are the real data scientists, for them, I have got a Streamlit in Snowflake is one of the open Python frameworks, and it is actually available in open and also within Snowflake. Within Snowflake, we call it as Streamlit in Snowflake, and this is the demo of the same. So you have been talking about how do I implement my AI, how do I implement my ML, how do I do the, let us say, I had a customer who has a lot of call data, and that call data is coming in, and they are talking. So two individuals are talking, and what we do is that we have taken a Whisper LLM model from the open source, and what we have done is we have converted into call text, and after that, we have done a call diarization of the same. After we did the same, we have run this particular notebook. Just give me a second. I'll go to the notebook. Pardon me, I cough. Excuse me. Yeah. So you could have also connected with the Git repository, but for now, what I am trying to show is you can now run any of your SQL queries and get the transcripts of your data for specific countries. So once I have got the transcript of my data, what it shows is which is the country which has got the highest amount of data and records. And once you have found that, you can now translate it, or you can take the transcripts data and understand how it has, how the conversation has gone in. So now we would like to do a sentiment analysis on top of it. What I would need to do is, I just need to run, no ML models are required here. What I would need to do is just a sentiment function on top of Snowflake, and it associates a specific sentiment score to this particular value. So if it is negative, then the sentiment is negative, that person is like scolding. If it is positive, then it means he is very happy. So the range is from -1 to +1, and this is what my data set is doing. And I have done a desk order by. So you have got various sets of data, and then it is just taking away a specific score. So this score actually helps us in understanding how the, the sentiment of this particular person has happened. Why am I copying this particular script is I would like to show you how if I would have run this on a specific sys or on a specific my particular application, what would it have done? It would have just run this code, and what we would have able to see is a specific sentiment score which which it has assigned to this specific thing. So -84, it means that this is a negative kind of a sentiment. I could have very easily gone and seen the latest call summary and seen how all the data is being focused or being placed across the specific buckets, happy, unhappy kind of. And then I could have also done a forecasting on a call volume, so that now I can bring in my people and ask them to sit and man some of the calls which are coming in the peak hour. So this is the forecasting for the call volume, and you can see that there is a lot of increase, that is a lot of trough and peak, and we can do that. We can also translate the call summary. For example, I'm currently doing it from English to, let us say, French. So this is something which is also happening. For getting this through, what is happening is we are sending the data, embedding it, vectorizing it, doing all of that, and then we are processing and getting the French language summary or the translation out from the LLMs. So all of these things together, what would it need is your data at one place and how we are going to run and execute. You can run the entire machine learning lifecycle, or you could also run the entire GenAI LLM lifecycle once you are on top of Snowflake. You can also ensure with some of the features that I just told you around the governance and security with role-based access control and a lot of other things with which you can manage your data, and then you can have a unified platform with easy and secure data engineering so that you can do an efficient, easy, and trusted engineering process for your entire data lifecycle, including the AI, ML, LLM, and all of those sectors of progress as we go ahead with data. That is it from me for today. Open for some questions. If you have any, please let me know. Thank you.